If you are choosing between Singapore Math and Saxon Math, you're really looking at completely different approaches to math, two completely different ways of thinking about math. And that choice affects confidence more than parents realize. Let's break it down simply so that we can find what fits your child. Both are widely used homeschool programs, Saxon and Singapore, but they approach learning math in two very different ways from different angles. One builds conceptual understanding, whereas the other one builds mastery through repetition and consistency. Singapore Math, let's talk about that. It is often described as a visual conceptual approach. Families tend to note that there's a strong focus on why we do this in math. There are lots of visual models, lots of problem solving, um, and there are fewer repetitive practice problems. So what that means is Singapore Math tends to work better for children who like pattern, logic, who enjoy problem solving, and who grasp concepts quickly and easily. And they don't forget easily either. They don't need a whole lot of repetition. Now, Saxon Math, it's a spiral approach. Maybe you've heard these buzzwords, spiral approach, where consistent daily review happens and there's a new concept added in. And the next day you review again. That's why it's like a spiral that keeps going up. You're reviewing a lot of material. Most lessons in Saxon will give you 30 problems, and most of those problems will be older concepts. But of course, there is a daily practice for the lesson that was taught. So Saxon Math tends to work well for children who need repetition to build confidence, because like I said in the beginning, confidence has a lot to do with learning math. If your child prefers a predictable structure, then Saxon is a great program for that. And if your child could benefit from daily review, that's another indication. Now, some of you may be completely new, complete beginners in homeschooling. And when I say something like your child could benefit from daily review, you don't even understand how that applies to your child. And that's fine. I used to be like that in the beginning. So here's my advice for you. If you've ever sat down with your child and you've given them a problem and you know you've covered this a few lessons back, and your child looks at you and says, I've never seen this before, you've never taught me this, then that's a clear indication that your child could benefit from daily reviews. I had one of those children, and you can teach them today and they'll know it tomorrow, but then next week they will look at the problem and think, I've never seen this concept before, but they have, and you know they have. But some children are that way, and every child is different, every child learns differently. And so families that work with Saxon Math often notice that you've got that lots of repetition built in, you've got the incremental skill building, and there's a steady reinforcement over time that would help a child who is struggling with remembering concepts. So here's the core difference between Singapore and Saxon. Singapore builds deep understanding first. That's what we mean by conceptual math, deep understanding of the concept, whereas Saxon builds mastery through repetition. Sure, they'll give you an explanation, but there will be lots and lots and lots of repetition. Neither is better. The question is not which one is better. The question is, how does my child process math? And only you know the answer to that question. I'm here to help you understand how these curricula are built so they will help your child along the way. So, who should choose what? If your child likes patterns, if your child likes puzzles, if your child thinks conceptually, and depth over repetition is what your child prefers, then definitely go with Singapore. Singapore is for children who like concepts and they really like to understand why things are the way they are. And then choose Saxon if your child needs steady reinforcement. I would say a child who's not mathy per se would definitely benefit from Saxon. And if your child likes routine, consistent review, right, then you might want to go with Saxon. When you have math frustrations in your classroom, they don't come from ability. So if you see frustration in your child when it comes to math, it doesn't come from ability. Often, more often than not, it's the teaching style. And by teaching style, I mean the style of your curriculum. So there's a mismatch between the child's learning style and the way the curriculum was written. And that's where you come in to decide what type of curriculum does my child need. If you want a simple way to match homeschool curriculum to your child's learning style, I have created a $7 PDF. I will link it in the description box. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get weekly updates on curriculum.